Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at Einstein the Searcher by Alexander Moskowski.
Oh, yeah.
This book is really cool.
Yeah.
It's a collection of conversations with Einstein that give us a glimpse into his thoughts
Mm-hmm.
on a wide range of subjects, not just physics.
Yeah.
So get ready to step into the mind of a genius.
I love it.
We'll be uncovering some surprising anecdotes
Okay.
and thought experiments, including one about a man named Lumen who travels faster than light.
What's really fascinating about these conversations is that you get to see Einstein's personality, his values, his views on science and philosophy, and even art.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a much more personal perspective than a typical biography.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're sitting in on these conversations ourselves.
Total.
Let's start with Moskowski's first encounter with Einstein,
Okay.
the Berlin Scientific Association.
Mm-hmm.
Moskowski describes feeling like he was sitting next to a modern-day Galileo.
Yeah. That feeling of awe wasn't really unique to Moskowski, though a lot of people who met Einstein described a similar experience.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't just his intellect. It was this certain aura
Yeah.
of presence.
And that makes you wonder, what did Einstein himself think about all the scientific giants who came before him?
Right.
Well, we get a little clue from the portraits he kept in his study. Newton, Faraday, and Maxwell.
Well, those portraits weren't just decorations, you
Yeah.
know. They were a visual representation of the
Lineage
of scientific thought.
Mm-hmm.
Einstein deeply respected his predecessors and saw himself as part of that continuum, building upon their foundations.
He was standing on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly. He was very aware that scientific progress is rarely a solo endeavor,
Right.
if ever.
But it's interesting how he contrasts Newton's approach
Yeah.
to scientific hypotheses with that of Descartes.
Yes.
He points out Newton's famous phrase, hypotheses non fingo. I feign no hypotheses, which highlights Newton's commitment to sticking to observable facts
Right.
and not speculating unnecessarily.
Yes. Einstein admired that rigor in Newton's approach.
Mhm.
Newton focused on describing how things worked with mathematical precision,
Yeah.
but was hesitant to really speculate on the underlying why.
So where did Einstein think those sparks of scientific insight came from? Those aha moments when something suddenly makes sense. Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Einstein believed that for many scientists throughout history, the motivation behind their discoveries was
Right.
actually religious.
It might seem surprising,
Yeah.
but Einstein saw a deep connection between the pursuit of scientific truth and a sense of awe and wonder at the universe.
no.
He pointed to the deep religious faith of figures like Newton, Descartes, Gauss, and Helmholtz.
Oh, wow.
It's like they were driven by a desire to uncover the universe's underlying order and principles,
Yeah.
something they saw as divine in nature.
So Einstein didn't think that science and religion were necessarily at odds.
Exactly. He saw them as potentially complementary ways of seeking truth.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that Einstein endorsed any specific religion or dogma.
Yeah.
In fact, he was, known to be critical of organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
But he acknowledged that a certain spiritual element
Right.
could be present in the pursuit of scientific understanding.
I wonder if that sense of awe and wonder is still a driving force for scientists today.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I think the answer is nuanced.
Mm.
While, the nature of scientific inquiry has evolved,
Right.
that underlying curiosity, that drive to uncover the secrets of the universe, that yearning for understanding, it's still very much alive.
Let's talk about that process of discovery itself.
Okay.
Einstein has this captivating story where he compares scientific discovery to artistic creation,
Oh, cool.
using Beethoven's Fifth Symphony
Yeah.
as an example.
Oh, how does that work?
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, this is where the concept of intuition comes in.
Okay.
Einstein believed that many great discoveries,
Mm-hmm.
like Fermat's last theorem,
Mm-hmm.
which puzzled mathematicians for centuries,
Right.
were arrived at per intuitionem,
Yeah.
which is Latin for through intuition.
Okay.
It's like a flash of insight, a gut feeling that something is true,
Yeah.
even if you can't immediately explain why.
So you might not have all the logical steps figured out, but you just know it's right.
Exactly.
Wow.
And Einstein argued that, Beethoven didn't simply invent the main theme of his Fifth Symphony.
Right.
He discovered it.
He discovered it.
It's as if the theme already existed somewhere, waiting to be brought into the world,
Right.
much like a scientific truth waiting to be uncovered.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But intuition isn't always right, is it? Didn't Einstein also talk about how Euler disproved another one of Fermat's theories?
That's right, and it highlights a crucial point.
Okay.
Intuition is a starting point, not an end point, you know. It needs to be followed by rigorous testing and analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Even the most brilliant minds can have these moments of inspiration that turn out to be wrong.
So how do we know which intuitive leaps are leading us in the right direction?
Right.
What happens when a scientific theory, even one based on solid intuition and testing, is later shown to be incomplete or even wrong?
That's where Einstein's concept of the principle of approximation comes in.
Okay.
He uses this analogy of three people arguing about the shape of the Earth.
Okay.
One says it's flat,
Right.
one says it's a sphere, and
Mhm.
one says it's an ellipsoid.
I see where you're going with this. Each person has a different level of understanding,
Yeah,
but none of them has grasped the absolute complete truth.
precisely. And this illustrates Einstein's point.
Right.
Each stage of scientific understanding
Yeah.
is a step closer to the truth, an
Mhm.
approximation. But we may never reach absolute certainty.
Right.
Our understanding is constantly evolving.
So it's a never-ending quest for knowledge, always refining our understanding,
Mhm.
always getting closer,
Yeah.
but accepting that we may never have all the answers.
Right.
It's both exciting and humbling, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Einstein believed that even seemingly fundamental laws, like Newton's law of gravitation or the law of inertia, might one day be superseded by more accurate descriptions
Right.
as our understanding evolves.
Are there any examples in the book that illustrate how dramatically our understanding can change over time?
Einstein mentions the discovery of continuous curves without tangents.
Okay.
Now, this might seem like a very abstract mathematical concept,
Yeah.
but it actually shattered a previously self-evident mathematical theorem.
Wow.
It forced mathematicians to reevaluate some of their most basic assumptions.
So even in mathematics, which we often think of as the realm of certainty,
Right.
our knowledge can be completely overturned by
Yes.
new discoveries.
Yes.
That's mind-blowing.
It is. It shows that even the things we think of as absolute truths might just be approximations waiting to be refined.
Okay.
Einstein even applied this principle to the microscopic world,
Okay.
using the Brownian movement as an example.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed how dust particles seem to dance randomly in a beam of light?
Yes, it's mesmerizing.
Right.
I never really thought about what causes that.
Well, that's the Brownian movement.
Okay.
It's the random motion of particles suspended in a fluid,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually challenged the prevailing scientific views at the time.
Okay.
Einstein showed that this seemingly chaotic movement could be explained by the collisions of these particles
Right.
with even smaller invisible molecules.
So even at the tiniest level, there was a deeper level of complexity that scientists hadn't grasped yet.
Exactly. And it reinforced this idea that we're always dealing with approximations,
Right.
always striving for a more complete understanding.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what other truths are waiting to be refined or even completely overturned as our knowledge grows?
This deep dive is already making me rethink some assumptions.
Yeah.
But we've only just begun to explore Einstein's world. What happens when we take this principle of approximation
Yeah.
and apply it to the universe as a whole?
Right.
What did Einstein have to say about the nature of the universe and where we fit into it?
That's where our exploration gets even more intriguing.
Okay.
Get ready to stretch your imagination as we delve into Einstein's thoughts on finite yet unbounded universes, the limits of human understanding, and even a touch of the occult. That's all coming up in part 2 of our deep dive into Einstein the Searcher. Welcome back to our deep dive into the mind of Albert Einstein.
Last time we were exploring Einstein's thoughts on scientific giants
Right.
and the nature of discovery itself, but we kind of left off on a cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah.
You were about to tell us what Einstein had to say about the nature of the universe.
Oh, right.
Now, I've always kind of thought of the universe as infinite. Is that
Yeah.
wrong?
It's not necessarily wrong, but it's more complex than that.
Yeah.
Einstein presents this fascinating analogy of micro-men.
Micro-men.
Yeah, living on the surface of a sphere.
Okay.
So imagine these tiny beings,
Yeah.
so small that the sphere seems like a flat plane to them.
Okay.
They can travel in any direction on the surface,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll never encounter an edge.
Right.
To them, their world seems infinite.
So from their limited perspective, the sphere appears infinite, even though we can see that it's finite.
Exactly.
I see where you're going with this.
Right.
Yeah.
We, looking at the sphere from outside, can see that it has a definite size.
Right.
And Einstein argues that our universe might be similar.
Right.
It could be finite, with a measurable size,
Okay.
but still unbounded.
Bounded.
We might never encounter a wall or a boundary,
Yeah.
even if we could travel in a straight line forever.
Okay. So let me try to wrap my head around this. So does that mean space somehow loops back on itself? Like if you travel far enough in one direction, you eventually end up back where you started.
That's one way to visualize it.
Okay.
The idea is that space itself is curved
Right.
in a way that allows for finiteness without a boundary.
Okay.
And this is where the distinction between infinite and unbounded becomes crucial.
Right, because something can be immeasurable
Yes.
from our perspective without being literally infinite.
Precisely.
Okay.
Einstein uses the example of an insect crawling on a globe.
Okay.
To the insect, the globe might seem vast and unending.
Yeah.
But to us, looking at the globe as a whole, we can see its limits.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So if the universe is finite, just how big are we talking?
Well, Einstein calculated the universe's diameter to be about 100 million light years.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, that's a number so large it's hard to even grasp.
Yeah.
But the takeaway here is that even though it might be vast, beyond our comprehension,
Right.
it could still be finite.
Okay, my brain is starting to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm following you. But here's a question that keeps popping into my head.
Yeah.
If the universe is finite, what's beyond it?
That's a question that has puzzled philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Right.
And Einstein, ever the pragmatist, acknowledges that, we simply don't know.
Okay.
He cautions against jumping to conclusions about what lies beyond our current understanding.
So no multiverses
Oh.
or hidden dimensions?
He doesn't completely rule it out,
Okay.
but he emphasizes that we need to be careful about labeling things we don't understand as magic
Right.
or resorting to, like, supernatural explanations.
Yeah.
He points out that even groundbreaking scientific advancements can seem like magic
Right.
to those who don't understand the underlying principle.
Like that saying, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that what seems magical or impossible today might be commonplace tomorrow.
Right.
As our knowledge expands.
He even mentions Edison being called the sorcerer of Menlo Park.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of limitations,
Yeah.
Einstein also discusses the problem of three bodies in astronomy.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, so the problem of three bodies refers to the challenge of predicting the exact paths of three or more celestial bodies that are gravitationally interacting with each other.
Okay.
It turns out that even with all our advancements in physics and mathematics, it's incredibly difficult to come up with, like, precise long-term predictions for systems with more than two bodies.
So even with all of our scientific tools, there are still limits
Absolutely.
to what we can predict.
Absolutely. And this problem highlights a key theme in Einstein's thinking,
Okay.
which is a humility in the face of the vastness and complexity of the universe.
I like that.
We may be able to calculate the diameter of the universe,
Right?
but we can't always predict the precise dance of a few planets or stars.
I find that both fascinating and a little unsettling. We have these incredible scientific achievements,
Right.
but there's still so much we don't know.
Right.
So much that might even be beyond our ability to ever fully grasp.
And that sense of mystery just deepens
Yeah.
when you consider Einstein's comparison of the atom to a microcosm of the solar system.
Oh, okay.
He points out the incredible difference in complexity
Okay.
between these two systems.
Wait, so you're saying the atom, this tiny building block of matter,
Yeah.
is actually more complex than our entire solar system?
It is.
Wow.
And this underscores the idea that there are layers upon layers of reality, each with its own, like, mind-boggling complexity.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion,
Yeah, exactly.
only to discover another onion underneath.
Yeah.
And so on.
And so on.
It makes you wonder what incredible intricacies are still waiting to be discovered, even in something as seemingly simple as an atom.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got this potentially finite yet unbounded universe. Limits to our ability to predict even relatively simple systems.
Yeah.
And layers of complexity that seem to go on forever.
Yeah.
Where does time fit into all of this?
Right.
Does Einstein believe that the universe had a beginning? Will it have an end?
So Einstein tackles some pretty profound questions about time.
Okay.
He even discusses the idea of eternal repetition,
Eternal repetition.
proposed by the philosopher Nietzsche.
Okay.
This is a concept where everything that happens in the universe eventually repeats itself
Oh, wow.
in an endless cycle.
So it's like cosmic déjà vu
Yeah,
on a massive scale.
on a massive scale.
That's wild.
It is. But while Einstein finds the idea, intriguing, he ultimately considers it unlikely from a physics standpoint.
Okay.
He points to the second law of thermodynamics.
Second law of thermodynamics, right? Something about entropy. I'm a little fuzzy on the details, though.
Basically, entropy is a measure of disorder or randomness in a system. The second law of thermodynamics states that entropy in a closed system,
Yeah.
like the universe, always increases over time.
Okay.
Things tend toward disorder,
Right.
not perfect repetition.
So that throws a wrench in the idea of a perfectly repeating universe.
Exactly.
Things would get a little messier with each cycle, wouldn't they?
Exactly. And this highlights another key aspect of Einstein's thinking,
Okay.
a deep respect for scientific principles
Mm-hmm.
and a willingness to acknowledge when an idea, however philosophically appealing,
Right.
doesn't quite fit with our understanding of the laws of physics.
Okay, so maybe we're not stuck in an infinite time loop.
Right.
But what about those science fiction scenarios where advanced alien civilizations pop in from other dimensions or galaxies?
Yeah.
Does Einstein ever touch on that?
He does, and his perspective on this is quite surprising.
Oh, okay.
He considers the possibility of sudden technological advancements arriving from outside our world,
Right.
but he doesn't necessarily view it as a positive thing.
Really, I have to admit, the idea of alien technology sounds pretty exciting to me.
It might sound thrilling,
Yeah.
but Einstein draws a parallel to the struggles of indigenous cultures facing rapid modernization.
Okay.
Imagine a society that's developed at its own pace for centuries,
Right.
suddenly confronted with technologies and ideas that are far beyond their current understanding.
Okay.
It could be disruptive, overwhelming,
Yeah.
and even destructive.
It's like that saying, be careful what you wish for,
Yeah,
applied on a cosmic scale.
exactly. Einstein's perspective is a reminder that progress can have unintended consequences.
Right.
It's a cautionary tale urging us to consider the potential impact of rapid change,
Yeah.
whether it comes from within our own world
Mm-hmm.
or from beyond the stars.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah,
It makes you realize that even technological advancement isn't always a straightforward good.
right.
There can be a dark side to progress, especially if it's imposed from outside without understanding the context. But we've been so focused on the vastness of the universe
Right.
and the limits of our knowledge.
Yeah.
What about time itself?
Mm-hmm.
Does Einstein have anything to say about that?
He does, and this is where things get really mind-bending.
Okay.
We touched on the concept of simultaneity earlier.
Right.
The idea that two events happening at the same time for one observer
Yeah.
might not be simultaneous for another observer who's moving.
Right. Right.
Well, this leads to one of the most revolutionary ideas in physics,
Okay.
the idea that time itself is relative.
Wait, so you're telling me time isn't constant? That it can speed up or slow down depending on your perspective?
That's the implication.
Whoa.
And it challenges our everyday intuition
Yeah.
about how time works.
Right.
Einstein argues that time is intertwined with space,
Oh.
forming a four-dimensional fabric
Okay.
that can be warped and stretched by gravity and motion.
Okay, now you've officially lost me.
Okay, well,
Can you give me like a concrete example
yeah.
of how this works?
Imagine two identical clocks,
Okay.
one here on Earth
Mm-hmm.
and one on a spaceship,
Okay.
traveling at a very high speed.
Okay.
According to Einstein's theory of relativity,
Yeah.
the clock on the spaceship would tick slightly slower
Really?
than the clock on Earth.
So time actually moves differently depending on how fast you're going.
Yes.
So does that mean time travel is actually possible?
In a way, time travel to the future is already happening,
Oh, okay.
albeit on a very small scale.
Okay.
The faster you travel, the slower time passes for you,
Right.
relative to someone who's stationary.
Okay.
But going back in time
Right.
is a whole other can of worms.
Right.
And even Einstein's theory doesn't provide a clear path to that.
So time is relative, the universe might be finite,
Mm-hmm.
and we may never know what lies beyond it.
Right.
This is all pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
What does it all mean for, like, our understanding of ourselves and our place in the cosmos?
That's a question that takes us beyond the realm of physics and into the realm of philosophy and personal meaning.
Right.
Luckily, our deep dive into Einstein the Searcher doesn't end here.
Oh, good.
In part 3, we'll explore Einstein's personality, his values, and his views on everything, from music and literature
Oh,
to
good.
education and the future of humanity.
Welcome back. We've been on quite a journey, exploring Einstein's thoughts on the universe, from finite spheres to that mind-bending concept of relative time.
Mm.
But I gotta admit, all this talk about like vast scales and abstract theories can feel a bit impersonal.
Yeah.
What about the man behind these groundbreaking ideas?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Einstein's ideas are fascinating, but they take on a whole new dimension when you understand the person who came up with them.
Yeah.
He was a complex and intriguing figure.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, this book offers a window into his personality and values.
That's what I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
We've talked about Einstein as like this scientific thinker,
Right.
but what was he like as a human being?
Well, one thing that might surprise you is that Einstein was known for being a pretty contemplative and introspective person,
Mm-hmm.
even as a child.
Really?
Yeah, he wasn't boisterous or particularly outgoing.
Mm.
In fact, he was a late talker, which worried his parents.
A late talker. Wow, you'd never guess that from his later accomplishments.
Right.
It makes you wonder what was going on in that young mind while everyone else was chattering away.
It seems he preferred solitude and quiet reflection.
Okay.
Even when surrounded by others, his mind was often elsewhere,
Yeah.
pondering deeper questions.
It sounds like he was always a searcher, even as a kid.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And this inclination towards independent thought
Mm-hmm.
is evident in his early fascination with geometry.
Okay.
He pursued it independently, going far beyond what was required of him in school.
So he was a self-driven,
Yeah.
curious learner,
Yes.
not content to just follow the curriculum.
Absolutely. He was driven by an inner need to, understand things for himself.
Wow.
And this independent spirit is further revealed in his early interest in the optics of moving bodies.
Optics is moving bodies.
Yeah, you could say the seeds of his future theory of relativity were planted during his teenage years.
He was already wrestling with those complex ideas.
I know, it's a
At such a young age.
It is.
That's amazing.
And even when circumstances forced him to take a more practical job at the Swiss Patent Office,
Right.
his mind was always working on theoretical concepts.
So he didn't see his day job as a distraction,
No.
but as like fuel
Yeah, exactly.
for his scientific explorations.
Because-
He was turning the mundane into inspiration. I love that.
And this intellectual flexibility is something that even impressed his contemporaries.
Oh, wow.
Poincaré,
Mhm.
a brilliant mathematician and physicist,
Okay.
praised Einstein's originality and his remarkable ability to adapt to new ideas.
It sounds like Einstein wasn't bound by convention or dogma.
No.
He was willing to question assumptions and explore like unconventional paths.
Exactly. He wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo or think outside the box.
Right.
And this intellectual independence wasn't limited to the realm of science.
Oh. What were some of his other interests? What did Einstein do when he wasn't working on equations and theories?
Well, he was a passionate lover of music,
Okay.
particularly the chamber music of Beethoven.
Okay.
But his tastes were discerning.
Okay.
He wasn't swayed by trends or
Yeah.
what was popular at the time.
So he brought that same independent spirit to his appreciation of art?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He enjoyed what he enjoyed, and he didn't feel the need to conform to anyone else's standards.
What about literature?
He actually preferred literature to philosophy,
Oh, wow.
naming Dostoevsky, Cervantes, and Homer as favorites.
Wow. It makes me want to reread those books with like a fresh perspective,
Yeah.
knowing that Einstein found something profound in them.
I think that would be a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah.
And it speaks to a broader point about Einstein.
Yeah.
He wasn't just this cold, calculating scientist
Right.
detached from the world of human emotions and relationships.
Right.
He was deeply interested in human nature,
Yeah.
in the search for meaning.
So beyond the equations and the theories, there was a deep humanity to the man.
There was.
Yeah.
And that human side is perhaps most evident in his values.
Okay.
He prioritized simple morality
Okay.
over political ideologies.
Mhm.
He emphasized the importance of empathy, joy, and human connection,
Right.
above all else.
It's like he recognized that those qualities are fundamental to a meaningful life,
Yeah.
regardless of your intellectual achievements.
I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
He famously said, "The best that life has to offer is a face glowing with happiness."
That's a beautiful quote. It's
Yeah,
a good reminder that even a genius like Einstein saw the value in, like, simple human joys and connections.
he did.
Yeah.
And despite his fame and acclaim,
Mm.
he struggled with the constant demands on his time
Right.
and the pressures of public life.
Right.
He truly valued solitude and quiet contemplation,
Yeah.
often feeling overwhelmed by social gatherings and the trappings of celebrity.
It's a good reminder that even those we put on pedestals
Mhm.
are human, with their own struggles and vulnerabilities.
Exactly. Einstein's life wasn't a fairy tale.
Right.
It was a complex and challenging journey,
Yeah.
filled with moments of brilliance, introspection,
Mhm.
and the difficulties of navigating a world that didn't always understand him.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways? What can we learn from exploring Einstein the Searcher?
I think we've gained a much richer understanding of Einstein,
Yeah.
not just as a scientific mind, but
Yeah.
as a human being.
Right?
We've seen how his scientific breakthroughs were rooted in a combination of intuition, rigorous testing,
Mm.
and a willingness to question everything.
Yeah.
We've explored his thoughts on the vastness and potential finiteness of the universe,
Right.
the mind-bending concept of relative time,
Right.
and the importance of humility
Yeah.
in the face of the unknown.
And we've caught glimpses of his personal side.
Yeah.
His love for music and literature,
Mm-hmm.
his need for solitude, and his belief in the power of simple human connection.
Right.
It's been an incredible journey.
It has, but as with any good journey, I think it leaves us with more questions than answers.
Oh, like what?
Well, if time is truly relative, as Einstein suggests,
Yeah.
how does that change our understanding of the historical figures we've discussed?
Okay.
Were their discoveries inevitable,
Right.
bound to happen in their time?
Mm-hmm.
Or could a different tempo of history have led to entirely different outcomes?
That's a fascinating question to ponder.
It is.
It makes you wonder if genius is simply a matter of being in the right place at the right time, or if there's something more, some spark that transcends those limitations.
Yeah. Perhaps it's a bit of both. But I think Einstein would encourage us to keep questioning, keep searching, and never lose that sense of wonder and curiosity about the universe and the human mind.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those mysteries.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep diving deep
Keep searching.
and keep searching for those moments of insight that make life so fascinating.